A new CAT scan of the Nazca Mummies shows they are genuine and not hoaxes as claimed by debunkers. The skiff briefing for the US Congress by the UAP experts or whistleblowers was originally scheduled for April 29 but has been postponed. A new UFO whistleblower has come forward to publicly reveal himself. Matthew Brown is the author of a 12-page summary he released on a special access program called Immaculate Constellation. All the expert statements and comments made at the May 1st, 2025 UAP Roundtable convened by the US Congress's House Oversight Committee are available online. These stories and more on Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Well, welcome to Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review. It is May 3rd. This is when you are hearing this broadcast. And there has been some developments over the last week that definitely are something that are noteworthy from an exopolitical perspective. So I just wanted to remind you that all the stories I discuss in this Week in Review can be found in terms of sourcing on my Twitter feed. So you can go to my Twitter feed at Michael Salla, just x.com/Michael Salla, or you can go to my exopolitics.org website and the Twitter feed is there as well. And so if there was any story that you wanted to follow up, then you can go to the feed and there you'll find the reference. So I want to begin with a retweet that I did of something from a X or Twitter poster called Mind's Eye Realized. And he made some very interesting, or she made, I'm not quite sure who it is, reptilian extraterrestrials orchestrated our world wars. Both World War I and II were orchestrated by our reptilian overlords to advance their agenda of global domination, population control, and resource extraction. World War I, the reptilians influenced monarchs, bankers, political figures tied to, or elite political figures tied to the British, German, and Russian empires to ignite the war. The war's massive death toll and economic upheaval served the reptilian goals by weakening humanity and consolidating power through financial systems. Then it goes on, the reptilians backed Adolf Hitler and other leaders to escalate global conflict again in the 1930s. So it is, I think, a nice kind of succinct overview of the negative role played by these Draco reptilians that have been identified by a number of people as having manipulated humanity behind the scenes for centuries, if not millennia. And I think this post by Mind's Eye Realized is, as I said, a succinct overview that I think is fairly accurate. I mean, I agree with most of what's written there. And I think when we look at the state of UFO research today, or UAP studies, however they want to frame it, until UFO or UAP researchers start dealing with the historical reptilian influence over humanity, they will only be understanding the outer layers of the ET UFO phenomenon. So if you just are interested in photographic, video, whistleblower, radar evidence concerning UAPs in the sky, or coming out of the ocean, you're only really looking at the surface layer. I mean, and as you go deeper and deeper, you look at the crash retrieval operations, you look at the deep underground military bases, and at some point you're going to reach the realization that, holy cow, there's these reptilians, both Earth-based reptilians and these off-world Draco reptilians who, by and large, have been running the show for a long, long time behind the scenes. Okay, so here's a post that I thought this was very, very interesting. It concerns a Jewish rabbi, Michael Laitman, who is I believe he's a leading Jewish scholar in the Kabbalah, very well known, very famous in the kind of school or the world of Jewish scholarship. And he had some very interesting things to say about Jews being an interdimensional race. So here is a clip where he talks about the Jews being an interdimensional alien race from another world that had come to Earth to conquer it. I mean, that's amazing to hear from a very prominent, well-known Jewish scholar. But that's exactly what he says. So listen closely. I'll play about a minute or two of him actually talking about this.
How do we conquer it? We're also sent the method. We're being shown everything gradually. We're being taught. Not taught, but kind of being trained, activated, and then that emotion and mind awakens in us. But in fact, it's new to us, but in fact it's coming from our original planet. And thanks to that original natural force we have, we will take over. We'll take over those living on Earth.
So there you have it. You have a very prominent Jewish scholar saying that Jews are from another planet. Later on in the lecture, he talks about it being in another dimension, and that the Jews were sent to Earth to control it, to take it over and conquer it. Very interesting, given the extraordinary influence Israel and the Jewish lobby has over the world's most powerful nation, the United States. That, wow, this is kind of very, very interesting. It gives us a unusual exopolitical perspective into the Jewish nation and the kind of influence they have over the planet, especially over the United States, which is, of course, the world's superpower. Right. Well, now let's move on to an interview I did with Dr. David Clemens. I mean, David is a Cambridge, Oxford-trained theoretical physicist who began to have extraterrestrial contact, and then he began to do remote viewing, and he decided to leave academia to focus on developing technologies and greater knowledge concerning these kind of healing modalities that extraterrestrials were showing him. And so that is what he has been doing for a couple of decades now. And he has developed some really impressive technologies to help people. So this is work that he is doing. And in this interview, we discuss some of his healing inventions. One in particular, a new one, is called the Quantum Healing Clarifier. and that is something that you can find out more about by just watching the video. It is very interesting technology in terms of how the kind of like energy field in the house is raised, is intensified, and he says that that this is how one can better connect with their higher self. What makes David unusual in terms of interviewees is that he very early on found that establishing a strong connection to the higher self is essential for maintaining very clear channels of integrity with different extraterrestrials and angelic beings or the Elohim. So that's what he does. And so his technologies really are aimed at helping you better connect with the highest self and or to heal. So his technologies do produce healing. Now, in our last interview, he discussed a kind of pyramid-shaped healing device. In this one, we discussed I think it's the quantum still point clarifier. So if you are interested in any of those devices and purchasing them from David's websites, which are infinitesourcecreations.com and ic-infinigi.com, then you can just enter the discount code exopolitics5 if you buy any of those products, and that will give you a discount, and it also I get a certain percentage as well, so that's always nice. So yeah, this is really a great way of being able to support the research of Dr. Clements. I mean, it really is groundbreaking, and his healing devices, here you can see the quantum still point clarifier. We do have one in our home, and boy, you definitely can feel it impacting the energy field in the house, and that is something we've confirmed here and in my home. And I think if you go ahead and get something like this, then you can confirm it yourself. So that's the interview I did with Dr. Clements. Okay, so here is an announcement from Jason Wild. And he says, for years and years, we were told the Nazca Mummies were fakes, stitched together animal parts, tourist trap, garbage, media bait for the gullible. I mean, that is what debunkers and skeptics have been saying for years and years. I mean, the Nazca Mummies over the years have had their supporters. I'm one of them. I believe Gaia TV was a big supporter. Jaime Musan is a big supporter, and there were others that supported the Nazca Mummies as genuine. Now, the important thing is I and others never said all the Nazca Mummies were genuine, because one of the favorite disinformation tools of the deep state, of the intelligence community, is to insert some fakes in genuine data. So, if you've got a collection of photos and these photos show an extraterrestrial craft in the sky, and these are very accurate, clear photos, if you insert a fake in there, and then you can expose the fake and say, well, look, it's fake. And that means they're all fake. And so people say, they assume that, well, if you find one fake, they all must be fake. And so that's how the intelligence community has operated for decades. And so the same thing with the Nazca Mummies. There were some fakes inserted into the pool of material or mummies that make up the Nazca Mummies. And this was done by design, by the intelligence community, to throw researchers off. And that's exactly what's happened. So Jason Wild goes on to say, and to be honest, at the beginning, I didn't know either way. But now, after seeing the full 2025 CAT scan comparison study, reading every anatomical analysis and combing through the raw tissue data, there's no question anymore. These beings are real, biological, naturally mummified. And so he goes on. But, this is something that's been known for those that believe the Nazca mummies were genuine for 5 years, 7 years. I think that they started to come out around 2017, 2018. The Nazca mummies information. And there were scientific studies, CAT scans and other studies conducted by credible scientists, and they found that the Nazca mummies, or the ones that they were examining, were genuine, were exactly showing the body of some non-human being. But because skeptics and debunkers focused on the fakes that were inserted with the genuine one, then the whole thing was thrown into uncertainty. But anyway, I absolutely agree with Jason Wild that this new CAT scan study is something that's very important, that shows that the Nazca mummies are genuine, just as people like Haimi Moussam have been saying for decades. I'm sorry, not decades, but certainly 7-8 years. Okay, so here is Laura Eisenhower, the great-granddaughter of President Eisenhower, and she did a tweet where she describes Eisenhower was one of the few who tried to protect humanity, not just from surface threats, but also from hidden galactic agendas operating behind governments. He faced impossible choices, immense pressure from covert groups, already formed secret societies, and rogue factions moving without his consent. Eisenhower did not willingly serve reptilian or dark alliances. He was cornered by existing operations and misinformation that limited what he could do openly. In truth, many of the deals blamed on him were orchestrated by shadow groups he was fighting against behind the scenes. His heart was for humanity's freedom. So Laura is here kind of making a case that President Eisenhower was not really in charge of the whole extraterrestrial military-industrial complex, that he was fed disinformation, that he was not given full briefings on what was going on, and that is absolutely correct. That is actually known. I mean, Eisenhower, we know from two sources, actually had to threaten that to take over Area 51, or that he was going to send in the First Army from Colorado to take over Area 51 because he wasn't being given briefings by the MJ-12 control group that was set up by President Truman, Eisenhower's predecessor, to take control of the UFO issue. And Truman really did set up MJ-12 as an organization that would take complete control of it because, I mean, Truman did not have the skill, the knowledge to run these operations. So I think he just was content to hand off power to MJ-12 group, play whatever kind of limited oversight role he was given by the MJ-12 group, and that's what Eisenhower kind of like came into power with. But Eisenhower, because he was a 5-star general, because he was someone that was used to being in control, very different to Truman, I believe, especially when it comes to the military-industrial complex, he wanted to know what was going on, and MJ-12 would not fully brief him. And so without being fully briefed on the UFO extraterrestrial issue, we can understand how deals were done behind the scenes that were attributed to Eisenhower, to President Eisenhower. And this is, I think, very unfair on President Eisenhower, because he did try to warn humanity about the MJ-12 group through his military-industrial complex, through his farewell speech, where he warned about the military-industrial complex, and he also warned or briefed President Kennedy after he won the 1960 election about the MJ-12 group, about how to kind of like take back control and power. Otherwise, he would be done. That you would lose all authority if you just let MJ-12 continue to run the extraterrestrial UFO issue the way it was. And unfortunately for JFK, he did not have the backing of the US military that Eisenhower did. Eisenhower could threaten to invade Area 51 or the S4 facility where the bodies and the craft were all taken by the CIA under the orders of the MJ-12 group. Eisenhower could threaten to do that, and the MJ-12 group basically understood that that threat was genuine, that Eisenhower did have that kind of authority with the military to order an invasion and takeover of Area 51. So they relented and gave him the information he wanted. But JFK couldn't do the same, because JFK was not a five-star general. And that's very unfortunate. So I do agree with Laura Eisenhower that her great-grandfather's memory and reputation is misunderstood by a lot of people that are familiar with the UFO issue. Okay, so Katherine Austin Fitz did an interview with Tucker Carlson. So let's listen to some of that interview where she talks about underground bases. So let's listen to this.
The underground base and city infrastructure and transportation system that's been built. And
I'm sorry?
Yes. So we have built an extraordinary number of underground bases and supposedly transportation systems. Some of these are documented as part of the national security infrastructure. I think there are many more.
In the United States?
In the United States, and all over the world. From 2021 to 2023, I took one of the smartest subscribers in the Slayer Report network, and he and I spent 2 years collecting all the data and all the allegations on underground bases. We systematically went through and tried to estimate our guess, this is totally a guess, of how many underground bases, both underground in the United States but also underground under the ocean around the United States. And our estimate was 170 with a transportation network connecting them.
And what would be the purpose?
If you thought you were going to get a near extinction event.
All right. So Katherine Austin Fitz, a former Assistant Secretary in Housing and Urban Development in the 1990s, estimates that there are 170 underground bases built in the US and under the surrounding ocean. And I know she got very interested in this vast underground network of deep underground bases because she experienced firsthand a existence of a black budget, or at least when she learned about the siphoning of funds out of the Housing and Urban Development, where she was the Assistant Secretary, and that nothing was done to stop this siphoning of funds away from HUD into other unknown areas, presumably the CIA. She learned very quickly that the CIA was kind of like channeling a lot of money through HUD and other agencies into the Pentagon for various projects that were funded off the books. And she connected that to the literature on deep underground military bases. Phil Schneider was a witness, a whistleblower that talked about the deep underground military bases. Richard Sauter has written at least 2 books about deep underground military bases in the US and around the oceans. Gene Decode, who's served for over 20 years in the US Navy, reached a very senior NCO rank. He also has done extensive research on deep underground military bases. And the estimate that Austin Fitz makes for the US of 170 underground bases is fairly accurate and consistent with what these researchers have found, or whistleblowers have found. What's interesting, that all of them spoke of the network or the transportation system connecting the deep underground military bases, and that these were maglev trains, and the speeds of the maglevs could go up to 10,000 miles per hour. And so they would transport people and material around the US or around the planet in less than an hour. I mean, that's just incredible when you think about it. But the documentation is there showing that maglev trains with speeds of up to 10,000 miles per hour have been the feasibility studies have been conducted on them. So there's documentation showing that is possible. So it is very disturbing to know that there is this vast network of DUMs in the US, in the oceans, and around the world, connected by these high-speed maglev railway networks. And this is something that the vast majority of the Earth's population are simply unaware of and even skeptical of, which is a shame. All right, now here we go into there was a skiff, a sensitive compartmented information facility briefing for members from the House Oversight Committee in the US Congress that was supposed to be held on April 29, but it was unfortunately postponed. So this is something that the US Congress is trying to do, is to have briefings in these skiff facilities where classified information can be shared with members of Congress concerning what's really going on with the UFO issue, which they can then use for disclosing to the public what is appropriate. Now, Lou Elizondo, he was one of the, he did announce that the skiff briefing had to be rescheduled, and that's because he is someone that does have the security clearances, and I believe he was going to be one of the experts that would brief Congress about, or those members of Congress that are interested in the UFO issue. He was going to brief them about what's going on. And David Grush was also going to be one of the briefers, and it was because David Grush was unable to attend that they had to reschedule and postpone that skiff briefing. Okay, so here we have a new whistleblower who's come forward to publicly reveal himself. Matthew Brown is the author of a 12-page summary document he released on a special access program called Immaculate Constellation. Immaculate Constellation was set up to investigate UFO reports and to disseminate its findings to interested Pentagon parties. Brown claims it was the Pentagon's successor to the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program after Luis Elizondo's departure in 2017. Okay, so here's the video. It goes for 46 minutes, so I can just refer it to you. But it's on Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp's Weaponized show, and this new whistleblower is introduced, and he discusses what he knows about Immaculate Constellation. Now, Immaculate Constellation really, I think, is really aimed at cataloging, recording UFO reports or sightings made by the US military around the world, whether it's Navy, Air Force, Army, Marines, and so forth. And so this is a program within the Pentagon, within the Department of Defense, aiming at studying, cataloging, investigating UFO sightings. So Immaculate Constellation, in terms of the whole hierarchy of kind of like UFO-related special access programs, is not all that high. I mean, we're really talking about reports of UFOs. We're not talking about crash retrieval operations. We're not talking about corporate reverse engineering of captured UFOs. We're not talking about deep underground military bases where they have UFOs stored and so forth. We're not talking about off-world programs. We're talking about people seeing, or military personnel seeing UFOs, and the military kind of like going through the motions. Oh, we're taking this seriously. We've set up an unacknowledged special access program called Immaculate Constellation. But, in terms of what's really going on with UFOs, I mean, this is just surface layer stuff. But nevertheless, I mean, it is helpful to know what is happening, even at that surface layer when it comes to UFOs in the US military. So I think it's a positive thing that this new whistleblower, Matthew Brown, has come forward. Now, there's a excellent summary of Matthew Brown's testimony on if you don't have time to watch the video and instead want to just read a summary, then this is where you can go. Just go to liberationstimes.com, I believe it is, and you can watch, or you can read Christopher Sharp's summary of the interview. And I think it's a very detailed summary, and so you will get a good idea of Matthew Brown. But as I said, this Immaculate Constellation, while UFO researchers are making a big deal of it because it's an unacknowledged special access program showing that the military is interested in studying UFOs, and it's a continuation of the ATIP program. It really is surface layer stuff because it doesn't go into crash retrievals, corporate reverse engineering, deep underground military bases, all of that. Okay, one day. Well, actually, before talking about that, let me talk about this. The expert statements and comments made at the May 1st, 2025 UAP or UFO Roundtable convened by the US Congress. So the US Congress, especially the House Oversight Committee, members from that are behind these recent UFO initiatives in the Congress, and there was going to be a skiff briefing. I mean, as I mentioned, that was postponed. So the next event in the timetable was this UAP roundtable, and that was held on May 1st. So that was Thursday, and all of the, if you did not watch it, all of the video recordings of the different experts that appeared is available on YouTube. So you can go to this YouTube channel, Josh-Polarity, there it is, and he's compiled all the statements and comments from the speakers, the key speakers at the 2025 UAP briefing. So this is something that I think shows just where the UFO research is focused these days. I mean, all of these experts that appeared, here you have Eric Davis. He does know something about crash retrievals and material from those. So, he's someone that knows a lot more than what he's willing to share. Professor R.V. Loeb, he is someone that kind of like looks at the scientific data concerning UFOs, astronomical observations in particular, and he makes some interesting speculations about that get into the kind of existence of extraterrestrial life. But, he's not someone that's familiar with the classified special access programs that are doing these kinds of reverse engineering of non-human intelligence spacecraft. And similarly with these other experts, Tim Gallaudet, Lou Elizondo, he is someone that has talked about crash retrieval operations, but he's mainly focused on UFO sightings, military UFO sightings. Kirk McConnell served in the U.S. Senate as a staffer, I think for like 40 years, in an extraordinary amount of time. And he from 2017 got interested in the UFO issue. So he's giving a perspective from a congressional staffer's experience over the years concerning the UFO topic. And Christopher Melon, he is very focused on UFO sightings. And at this meeting, he actually did make a case, or did state that crash retrievals may be false, that there may not have been any crash retrievals. So, I will talk more about that in a moment. Okay, so just go to Josh-Polarity on YouTube to watch those videos. Okay, so this is where I can look at Chris Mellon's testimony at the Congressional Roundtable, and there's a summary of it that is here. Joe Murgia, or the UFO Joe, who has a Twitter channel. So he did a summary. So thanks to him, we have a written summary of what Christopher Mellon said. And this is one of the key points. It's entirely possible that we might not have recovered materials. And that is very, very interesting, given that Christopher Mellon is someone that's worked at a kind of pretty senior bureaucratic level within the Pentagon, and worked with the Lou Elizondo and the ATIP project while at the Pentagon. That he would think that it's possible that there are no recovered UFO materials, that crash retrieval operations have not happened. And so, you can read Murgia's summary of that. But what Chris Mellon's testimony shows is that his cousin, John Warner IV, was right all along. Because for Mellon to say at this Congressional Roundtable that UFO crash retrievals may not have occurred, and that support for crash retrieval evidence and testimonies can negatively impact serious UAP research, shows that he's part of a limited hangout. And I think that is the conclusion we can draw from Chris Mellon's testimony at this Congressional Roundtable, that he's there to just push this idea that UFOs are real, but when it comes to all these claims concerning UFO crash retrievals, recovery of non-human intelligence, all that's kind of like speculative. We don't really know. There's no evidence for it. It's possible that none of it could have happened. Given the overwhelming evidence, testimonies, and expert whistleblowers who have come forward to talk about these crash retrieval operations and some of the recovered material that people have had in their possession and studied. This, to my mind, makes Christopher Mellon's key role in this kind of like UFO disclosure initiative that's taking place through the Congress, that it makes that something that I think suggests that a limited hangout is what he is pursuing, what he is putting out. All right, so let me go back to this. This is my announcement for the monthly live briefing, which will be held today. So later today at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that's 11 o'clock Pacific Time, I will hold my first monthly briefing in nearly 3 months because of my illness. I could not do them, but now, thankfully, I've recovered enough, got my voice back, which is great. It's difficult to be a podcaster and interviewer without a voice, but that's. I had a really nasty cough for months back there, and I think many of you, I appreciate your patience. All right, so tomorrow I'm going to give my monthly briefing, and in addition to identifying the top exopolitics stories over the last month, I'm going to look at some pretty hot geopolitical issues and give you my exopolitical take on them. So one of these is President Donald Trump's global tariff policy, which has greatly impacted international trade, especially US trade with China. But what many people are unaware of is how this tariff policy is, I think, related to a white hat initiative to stop or disrupt the worldwide adrenochrome trade. So if you want to know more about that, then you can join my webinar. Another hot exopolitical issue is the recent death of Pope Francis, and of course, people are speculating who's gonna head the church. But from an exopolitical perspective, it's figures in the background that really run the church. And we're not talking about the Black Pope, the head of the Jesuit order. We're talking about these reptilian entities that I mentioned a little bit ago, some earlier in this week in review. And I think when it comes to UFO disclosure, the Vatican is going to play a big role. It's going to play a big role. I mean, and this new pope that's going to come forward is going to be the public face of that. Because once disclosure is going to be officially announced, the Vatican will be front and center in that. It's not going to be the US. It may be the US, but I think the Vatican will be front and center because the Vatican is very interested in establishing a new global religion that's based on extraterrestrial life. And that's all being done to limit the human potential. But in contrast, there are these seed codes of human DNA that allow humanity to achieve its fullest potential through 12-strand DNA and direct communications with natural source intelligence. And the Vatican has played a key role in suppressing that. So exactly how that's going to work with disclosure and how we can play a role in putting out this the genuine human potential, I'll be doing that in the webinar as well. And also I'll talk about the Trump administration's agreement with the Ukrainian government over mining rare earth materials. That's a cover for something else of exopolitical significance. And also Antarctica. We're going to take a look at Antarctica and how this awakening of the fallen angels and the emergence of a modern incarnation of Yahweh is related to this effort to establish a new global extraterrestrial religion. So these are the topics I'm going to be talking about. I'm very excited by it. So I hope you can join me today. If you're a Patreon member, you need to be a tier 2 Patreon member, or you can just go to my website, exopolitics.org, and click the link either in the webinars page or in the announcement that there's one day to go. And I hope to see you there. So again, I want to thank you all for listening to this Exopolitics Today Week in Review. Again, a shout out to all my Patreon supporters. Very much appreciate your support of my channel. And I look forward to doing this again next week. And don't forget, the monthly briefing is today, and you are going to get a lot of really good information of what's really happening around the world.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.